I overheard my husband talking to my mill about $10,000 and our 3-year-old. What they planned shocked me to my core. They say betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from the people you trust most. One night I overheard my husband talking to his mother about our 3-year-old son, followed by a price tag. My blood ran cold as I unraveled what they were planning to do to my child behind my back. Have you ever had a moment where everything you thought was solid suddenly felt like quicksand? When the people you trusted most revealed themselves to be complete strangers? That happened to me one Tuesday night, and I'm still shaking as I write this. 6 years ago, I met Nathan during my final year at university. He was kind, charming, and seemed to understand me like no one else ever had. Our relationship moved quickly, and within a year, we were married. I still remember the night he proposed. We were walking through the park where we had first met. He stopped suddenly, turned to me with tears in his eyes, and told me that before he met me, everything in his life was just noise. But now, with me, he heard music everywhere. Then he got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. At that moment, I thought I had found the perfect person to share my life with. If only I had known that the happiness I felt then would not last forever. When our son Leo was born 3 years ago, I believed our family was complete. We had our fair share of struggles, just like any couple, but I never thought they were anything out of the ordinary. Looking back now, I realized that there were warning signs, especially when it came to Nathan's mother, Susie. She moved into our home shortly after Leo was born, saying she wanted to help us for a few weeks. But those weeks stretched into months, and eventually she just stayed. She had a house of her own not far from us, but somehow she became a permanent part of our household. Nathan never seemed to question it, and despite my discomfort, I tried to be understanding. I wanted to be a good daughter-in-law, but deep down, I always felt like she saw me as an outsider in my own home. One day, I gently brought it up with Nathan. I asked him if he thought his mother might be more comfortable living in her own house, but he brushed it off, saying that she only wanted to be close to Leo. When I told him that I sometimes felt like I was raising our child with his mother instead of him, he did not seem to take my feelings seriously. Eventually, I stopped bringing it up, never imagining that he and his mother would betray me in such a terrible way. One evening, I came home late after working on an important project. The house was unusually quiet as I stepped inside, taking off my shoes in the hallway. I was just about to head upstairs when I heard hushed voices coming from the kitchen. I did not intend to eavesdrop, but when I recognized the voices as Nathan's and his mother's, I paused. Something about the tone of their conversation made me uneasy. $10,000, Nathan. Just think of what we could do with that money, Susie said in a low voice. I froze, my hand still on my jacket. The way they were speaking made me feel as though I was intruding on something secret. Then I heard my name. But using Leo for this, I'm afraid Amelia will find out, Nathan said hesitantly. My heart started pounding. What were they planning to do with our son? He's perfect for it, Susie responded quickly. Young, charming, exactly what they're looking for. And Amelia doesn't need to know anything about it until it's already done. Nathan was silent for a moment before finally replying, she has no idea. I stood in the hallway, completely frozen. My mind raced as I tried to understand what I had just heard. Whatever they were planning, it involved my son, and they were deliberately keeping it from me. At that moment, the people I had trusted the most felt like strangers, and it's better that way. Every muscle in my body tensed, and a chill ran down my spine. Better that way? What exactly were they planning to do with my son? I wanted to step into the kitchen and demand answers right then, but something kept me frozen in place. Maybe it was shock, or maybe a part of me needed to hear just how far they were willing to go before I confronted them. Nathan spoke again, his voice low and uncertain. We need to do this soon, before she starts suspecting us. Leo will be fine, Susie reassured him. You know this is the best thing for him, and it's $10,000 for you. Amelia doesn't even have to know. I felt my heart pounding so hard that I could hear it in my ears. $10,000. What was worth that much? And why were they making decisions about my child behind my back? Nathan sighed, his voice softer now. I know, Mom. I don't know how she'll react if she finds out. That was it. I couldn't stand in the shadows any longer. My body moved on its own as I stepped into the kitchen doorway and flipped on the light. Find out what? The reaction was instant. Nathan and Susie jumped like they'd been caught doing something illegal. Nathan's face went pale, and Susie's expression shifted into something cold and unreadable. Amelia! Nathan stammered. You're home early. I ignored his attempt to sound casual. My eyes were locked on both of them. What were you planning to do with my son? The silence that followed was suffocating. They exchanged glances, the kind of knowing looks that I had come to despise over the years. It was as if they were deciding what story to tell me. Nathan finally forced a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Oh, babe, we were just talking about that daycare program you mentioned the other day. Mom thinks we should enroll Leo before the spots fill up. Susie nodded too quickly, her voice overly cheerful. Yes, that's all it was. Just discussing what's best for Leo. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about? My stomach twisted painfully. Something about their words felt wrong. I wanted to believe them, to convince myself that I was overreacting, but my instincts screamed at me that they were lying. Nathan cleared his throat and glanced at his mother again. We'll talk later, he said quickly. I swallowed hard, feeling my heart still racing. Yeah, of course. I walked away, pretending to let it go, but my mind refused to rest. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe it really was just about daycare. But deep down, I knew better. Something wasn't right. That night, long after everyone had gone to bed, I did something I had never done before. I checked Nathan's phone. His message thread with Susie was right at the top. With shaking hands, I opened it. The first message made my breath catch. They just need one parent to sign. She doesn't have to know. My fingers trembled as I scrolled up. They're offering more. For younger kids. Easy money. I'll handle it. Just get her signature on something and I'll swap it out. A sick feeling settled in my stomach. I scrolled further, trying to make sense of it. Then, I saw the name of a company. I quickly typed it into my phone's search bar. To my shock, it was a real modeling agency. It wasn't a scam and there weren't any obvious dangers, but that didn't matter. What mattered was that they had planned to forge my signature and use my son without my consent. The worst part? Leo had already been signed up. I sat there, frozen in disbelief, my hands gripping the phone so tightly that my knuckles turned white. My own husband and his mother had gone behind my back, deciding what was best for my child like my opinion didn't matter at all. Panic swelled in my chest, but I forced myself to breathe. I needed to stay calm. With trembling fingers, I took screenshots of every message and emailed them to myself. I had to protect my son. Nathan had no idea what was coming. Then, I reached for my phone and dialed my sister's number. It was late, but I didn't care. She picked up after a few rings, her voice groggy. "Amelia? What's wrong? You sound terrible." The dam broke, and I whispered into the phone, trying not to wake anyone. I told her everything. What I had overheard, what I had found on Nathan's phone, and the betrayal I felt. There was a brief silence before she spoke firmly. "Pack a bag," she said. "Come stay with me. We'll call a lawyer in the morning." Tears ran down my face as I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I knew she was right. I couldn't stay in that house another night. I needed to get Leo and leave before it was too late. "I can't believe this is happening," I whispered, my voice breaking. My hands were shaking as I held the phone. "I trusted him, Sarah. I trusted both of them." Sarah's voice was steady, firm. "Listen to me, Amy. You are stronger than you think. And right now, Leo needs you to be strong." I wiped my tears, trying to push back the overwhelming feeling of betrayal. The pain in my chest felt unbearable. But Sarah was right. My son needed me more than ever. The next morning, I went about my routine in silence. Nathan greeted me as if nothing had happened, sipping his coffee at the kitchen table, scrolling through his phone. I barely heard a word he said. My mind was focused on one thing: confronting him. Without speaking, I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and slid it across the table to him. The messages were open, the truth laid out in front of him. "Care to explain?" I asked, my voice sharp. Nathan's fingers tightened around his coffee mug. His eyes flickered over the screen as he scrolled through the messages. I watched as his face lost its color, his hands beginning to tremble. Susie, sitting across from him, stiffened slightly but remained silent. She didn't even try to defend herself. "Babe, Don't," I interrupted, my voice firm. "Don't even try to spin this. You were planning to sign Leo up for a modeling contract. Behind my back. You were going to forge my signature and keep me in the dark?" Nathan ran a shaky hand over his face. "It's not what you think." "Then explain it to me, Nathan," I demanded, crossing my arms. "Tell me what this is." He hesitated, glancing at his mother before finally mumbling, "Mom needed help." I blinked, completely caught off guard. "Excuse me?" Nathan exhaled heavily and rubbed his temples. "Mom has gambling debts," he admitted. "She's about to lose her house. We needed the money fast." I stared at him, my body going numb. "So you decided to use our son as a way to get quick cash? And you didn't think to talk to me about it first?" "I didn't know how to tell you." Nathan trailed off, his voice weak. I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. "How about, hey honey, my mom's in trouble, let's figure out a solution together?" My voice dripped with sarcasm. But no. Instead, you and your mother went behind my back, planned to forge my signature, and tried to use my child like a paycheck. Nathan pushed back from the table and stood up suddenly, his expression desperate. "I was scared, Amelia. Mom was talking about losing everything. I couldn't let that happen." I stepped back as he reached for me. "And what about Leo, Nathan? What about your son?" My voice was ice cold now. "Was your mother's gambling addiction more important than his safety? More important than being honest with me?" Nathan fell to his knees, grabbing my hands. "Amelia, please, I wasn't thinking. I was desperate. I made a mistake, but we can fix this." His eyes were glossy with tears. "Please don't do this. I love you. I love our family." I yanked my hands away, stepping back. My heart pounded, but my decision was already made. "We're done, Nathan." My voice was steady, final. "I've already called a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce." His face crumbled. "No, please, don't do this. We can work this out. I'll do anything." I shook my head, the last bit of warmth I had for him disappearing. "It's too late. You've already shown me who you really are." I didn't just leave. I took everything. I froze our joint bank accounts, filed for full custody of Leo, and documented every single lie, every message, and every betrayal. Nathan begged, pleaded, and apologized, but I never looked back. That was 6 months ago. Today, I'm sitting in my new apartment, watching Leo happily play with his toys, completely unaware of how close he came to being used as the solution to his grandmother's problems. I take a deep breath and smile softly as he laughs, his little hands stacking colorful blocks. He is safe. He is happy. and that's all that matters. Nathan lost everything, just like he deserved. And as for me, I gained something much greater: freedom, peace, and the unshakable knowledge that I will never let anyone use my child as a pawn ever again. The divorce is final. I have full custody of Leo, and Nathan is legally required to stay at least 50 feet away from us unless supervised. The court made it clear he lost his right to be around our son freely because of his actions. Oh, and the money they were so desperate for? It turns out Nathan took out a loan to save his mother's house after all. The very thing he could have done from the start instead of trying to exploit our child. It was almost laughable. He risked everything: his marriage, his family, his relationship with his son, when a simple solution was there all along. But instead of choosing the right path, he chose deception. Last week, I saw him for the first time since the divorce was finalized. I was at the grocery store, pushing my cart down the aisle, when I turned the corner and almost bumped into him. Nathan looked different. His face was pale and drawn, his eyes dull with exhaustion. He seemed older somehow, as if the weight of his choices had aged him overnight. For a moment, we just stood there in silence. Then, without meeting my gaze, he spoke. "How is he?" His voice was quiet, almost hesitant, as he stared down at the floor. "He's good," I answered, keeping my tone even. "He started soccer. He loves it." Nathan swallowed hard, his hands clenched at his sides. "I miss him so much, Amelia," he whispered. "I miss you both." A familiar ache stirred in my chest, but it wasn't the sharp, unbearable pain I had once felt. It was dull now, like an old scar that no longer hurt but still reminded me of the wound. I met his eyes and spoke the truth. "You should have thought about that before you chose your mother's secrets over your son's well-being." His shoulders slumped, and for the first time I saw real regret on his face. But regret wasn't enough. It would never be enough. And you know what? As much as it hurt, I was glad this happened. Because sometimes it takes a crisis to show you who people really are. Nathan had a choice. He could have come to me and asked for help. He could have trusted me the way I had once trusted him. Instead, he decided to deceive me. He put his mother's reckless choices above our child's safety, above our marriage, above everything we had built together. And that's something I could never forgive. But I refuse to let his betrayal define my life. Leo is thriving in his new preschool. He's happy, he's safe, and he's surrounded by love. I recently got a promotion at work, and for the first time in years, I feel like I can finally breathe. And most importantly, I sleep soundly at night, knowing that my son is safe from those who would use him for their own selfish gain. Walking away from Nathan was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but sometimes the bravest thing you can do is leave behind the people who hurt you, even if they're family, especially if they're family